Some people were very clever. Some people were very confident. None of those people were the same people. Yes, I have chosen the next language that I'll be studying seriously, and I will tell you what it is in this video. I may even be going to the country where that language is spoken. Just so you know, this video that you're watching right now is not what I originally intended it to be. I made so many changes, so I've got to work a bit more quickly. That's why we've got mic in shot, notes in front of me. The first thing I need to cover that came up as a result of a couple of questions and comments that people made is story learning and whether you can trust what I have to say about it. Well, there's good news, you don't have to, because I found a YouTuber who has less than 100 subscribers, but hopefully for not very long. If a small channel has ever deserved a shout out, it's this one. He's called Matt Brooks Green. He makes videos around language learning, as you may have guessed, and they are solid. They're well written, they're to the point. Even his on-camera presence is much better than mine was when I first started out, and he's got a really down-to-earth, solid, unbiased, unaffiliated review of story learning. It covers how he uses it, how he would suggest you use it, pros, cons, things he doesn't like personally. I'll put his review in the description. And please, if you're not interested in story learning, or you've already taken advantage of the Black Friday sales or whatever, just check out his channel anyway. Like I said, it'll be in the description. We need more good language learning channels like his. Your son is competing at the Rubik's Cube World Championships in Seoul, so the language is Korean. Interesting theory. But because of the changes that I made to this video and the resulting delay from that, this video will be up within the last day to maybe 2 days if you're lucky of the story learning Black Friday prices. That's $97 instead of $300 or $400 for a certain language that I may have or may not have recently become very interested in. By the way, some of you have really weird ideas about which countries are on the cutting edge of robotics. Anyway, as I was saying before I completely hijacked my own point, the story learning courses are $97 at the moment, but not for very much longer at the release of this video. If you do check out reviews and stuff and you are keen, get on it quickly. Born in the UK, never heard anyone say appreciate like you do. Maybe I was living under a rock. Maybe you were. Maybe you were. Or maybe I just say it differently to everyone else. So that morning, I chose a language on story learning essentially at random. It's a language I've never studied before, but it is quite big in the language learning community. Then there was the book fair. Now people are going to say, oh, well, there's probably always been books in that language. You just ignored them until it was relevant to you. I know it seems like that would be the case, but it's not, because often at that book fair, there's all the normal Croatian and Serbian and stuff that's normal for this city. And then there's one language in large amounts that have obviously come from a single bulk donation. And that, what I would call the catch of the day language, has definitely never been this language before. I know that for certain. And this was a big catch of the day. The tables were just awash with that language. Now that was weird. And it was cool because I'd been studying it that morning, but I wouldn't take it as a divine signal. This person, I'm going to assume it's actually Latin because of story learning. You what now? But there's lots of languages on story learning. But the email when we got home telling us that Felix's team had been invited to compete overseas, that was pretty out there because it's a bit more complicated than I made out in the last video. We had known that an overseas trip was a possibility, and we'd known where it was, but initially they told us that if the team was invited, it would be for about 10 days, and it was never going to be to the country in question. This language is spoken in that country, but it's not where you would think of going to practice that language. I guess you could compare it to going to Finland if you're going to practice Swedish. Yes, you could do that. You would find opportunities to practice your Swedish in Finland, or you could just take a 2-hour flight to Stockholm and everyone would speak Swedish. Swedes are going to be actually, there's quite a lot of people. Yeah, håll käften, okay? Okay, so now you might be wondering why I took it as such a significant thing that the email arrived that day, considering that we did already know that that was a possibility. Well, firstly, we didn't realize that we'd have anywhere near that much notice. They actually told us that if this happens, it could be on very, very short notice. So we'd kind of written it off as well, we can't do it because we won't be able to organize everything and pay for it and etc. on that much notice. But this time they were hey guys, good news. We've got this huge amount of notice. And this is where it gets exciting for me. The trip will not be 10 days. We've actually been invited to compete in a second tournament in a different city that's about 9 days before that. So the trip will now be around 19 days, and there will be around 8 to 9 days in which we won't be really doing anything. And there's a Swedish word, avstickare, that comes to mind. It means like a little trip within a trip. So that's when my mind went to like, whoa, okay, this is weird. Studying the language that morning, saw books in droves at the book fair, and then we find out that there's a very distinct possibility that I could, with not that much difficulty, get to a country where that language is very, very heavily spoken. That's when I took it as like a sign. This person, is it Romansh? I bet it's Romansh. They kind of they talk like I imagine a dog would talk. Is it Romansh? Can we go for a walk? Can we go for a walk? I bet we're going for a walk. You're going to Switzerland. You're going to speak Romansh, aren't you? There's only like 1% of Switzerland or something speaks Romansh. The population of my street. On a serious note for a second, thank you all so much for all your guesses, for all your theorizing in the comments. It was not just because I want the comments, right? It's actually really nice to see people just getting involved in the game. I was never actually hoping that anyone would really care that much what language I'm studying. It's just me. It's way more important to me than it is to anyone else. So thank you all so much for getting involved. This person, for example, actually, I'm guessing Dutch. Where's my prize? Well, here, Kate, here are your prizes. 2 books in Dutch that were originally published in English, and I have always wanted to read them. However, I am not learning Dutch, so they will have to wait, and your answer is incorrect. I'm sorry. There were lots of weird comments as to what constitutes overseas when I live on the world's largest island. Like, everywhere is overseas. One person even said, well, it can't be Europe because you said overseas. What? Why not? Okay, firstly, I'm assuming that you think I'm British, but as far as I know, Britain is an island as well. So yeah, it still has to be overseas. I'm guessing Italian. Italian is the only language on your story learning screen that shows a start course button rather than just the number of courses available, which means that you had your mouse hovering over that button. No. I don't know why it just shows a start course button. I didn't have my mouse hovering over that button, but that's not it. It's amazing detective work, but I'm sorry. Now, as far as I can work out, there are 3 people maximum who got the real clue for what it actually meant, which was a proper hint at my new target language. But I'm only going to read out the first one because I'm pretty sure the second one had seen the first one's comment. Well, basically you weren't first. You got to be first. So let's find it here. Now, I know that people are going to stop watching as soon as I actually say the language, so I just need you to hear me out for one more thing, and that is that this is not locked in. This is far from a certain thing. I don't want to hear people saying, you said you would do this in blah, blah, blah. No, I said I'd try. Okay, there's a lot of complicating factors. Firstly, there's the cost. Can we even afford to send Felix on the thing, especially now that it's longer? Then there's, can we afford to send me? Then there's, can my wife stay at home for almost 3 weeks with a 3-year-old child? Then there's, can I go to a separate place in the middle of the whole thing and not actually disturb the team too much and like make it all about me? It's almost 70 people going to be there. I'm going to try to make it happen, but there are a lot of hurdles to jump if I'm going to get over the border to Mexico. Here's the person I'm going to give the credit to because they got it and they got it first. Ewan Gattenby, there's a good chance of it being Mexican Spanish since at 4:03 the Italian flag switches to the Mexican flag just before it cuts. Yes, precisely, you see that Mexican flag for 1 frame. And remember people, the Mexican flag is just the Italian flag with a bit in the middle. This person spotted a little bit in the middle of a flag on the side of the screen for 1 frame. Good job, Ewan. Well done. Bye.